are listening to the Conquering Everest podcast. This is episode 18. That's right. You are tuned into the Conquering Everest podcast. My name is Brian Talor, and let me just say thank you. Thank you for choosing to spend a bit of your day with me. Now, on today's episode, I sit down with Karen Carlucci Wahner. She is the author of Reclaiming Your Moxie. Now, hey, we all go through times in our lives where it feels like that fire that used to burn so intensely bright inside of us, well, feels like it's starting to die out. Well, that could be a sign that you're losing your moxie. But don't worry, Karen's got the answers. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Karen Carlucci Wahner. Karen Carlucci Wahner, welcome to the Conquering Everest podcast.
Thank you. Glad to be here tonight.
I'm glad to have you. So we've got a lot to talk about. We're talking about Moxie,
Mm-hmm.
and you've got a book about that. But before we get into the details, would you like to share a little bit about yourself with the listeners?
All right. Thank you. So I am Karen Carlucci Wahner. I grew up in Philly, where I say you have to have a lot of moxie when you're growing up. And when I was young, I grew up in a household, like many households, where I kind of had a mom who was not quite supportive, who didn't instill a lot of confidence in me. And so I think that really laid the groundwork and the foundation for, issues I would have the rest of my life as far as making, bad choices and maybe going into relationships that weren't so good for me, not having the confidence to speak my voice, to go for opportunities that I should be going for. And so, it's not like I was a schlep. It's not like, I failed at everything. I did manage to be a research scientist for about 17 years. I raised 4 great kids, but it's been a real struggle going through really horrible relationships and narcissistic type relationships. And it's just now in my 50s that I am finally coming into my own, that I feel like I'm coming into my own, that we're not, I'm not feeling kind of like this imposter that I have felt my whole life. We get this imposter syndrome, but I am finally feeling like I'm coming into my own and things are starting to click. And I've got this mission, and it's to help people heal. It's to help people not feel so bad about themselves like I did for so many years.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about that. So when did you said your mother was kind of the, was
Yeah, I
it,
think
did I hear
what
your mother was kind of
she
the,
provided the basics. She provided the basics,
okay.
like many moms. There wasn't a whole lot of support for things that I wanted to do. I had wanted to go into the music field, played violin, guitar, wrote music, and that was just not going to happen. So I wanted to go to high school for performing arts, and she made it very clear that was a really dumb idea. There was no sense in ever being a musician. So there wasn't a whole lot of support. There was a lot of critiquing. There was a lot of criticism. And, I'm sure she did the best she could. And I have to think that when people are hurting inside, that they can take it out on others. Unfortunately, a lot of times they're taking it out on their own children without even realizing the impact that it has. So that's
Right.
something that I have been very mindful of in raising my own children. I decided my kids were not going to go through what I went through.
What would you say when you got out of the house? You said you were married. Did you jump right into building a family and marriage, or?
No, I didn't. I left the house. I was, I think, 17, 18 years old, just kind of on my own, and went into a relationship that was not very good for me. And went in from there into a marriage that wasn't good for me. And so I did have a relationship in between that was good for me, but when you're not used to things that are good for you, it seems foreign and it doesn't
Right.
seem comfortable. And so you tend to gravitate back to what isn't good for you, what you're comfortable with, what you know so well, what you think you're worthy
Yeah.
of, you know? And
Hmm.
so, yeah, so I mean, I've been married 3 times to the same type of person, some subtle differences, but essentially the same, and have had to start all over.
Yeah, that's kind of rough when you got to start over, and it's especially I'm kind of in the same boat, and I was in my 40s when I was starting over, so it wasn't easy. Tell me a little bit about Union Joe.
I love Union Joe. So he was one of my friend's husbands, and I absolutely loved Union. He was a tough guy, Philly guy, Philly Union guy. And I would go over the house, and there he'd be just watching TVs, puffing away on his cigarettes. And he's got his wife beater shirt on, his hair all slicked back, kind of squinting all the time, and that gruff cigarette voice, disjointed nose, looked like maybe he'd been in 1 or 2 bar fights. But Union Joe is somebody you didn't want to fuck around with. He's a tough guy. And we had kind of gotten into a little bit of an argument one night because I was shopping someplace that was non-union. One of his competitors, he worked at a union grocery store, and he made it very clear that that was a union house, and the people that enter that house respect that. And so he kind of gave me an ultimatum, like, our friends, respect that, and you got a choice to make whether or not you want to come in here. And I just remember looking at him like, are you kidding me? And I said, well, my friends respect my choices. I'm going to shop where I shop. It sounds to me like you got a choice to make, Joe. And my friend Lil just happened to be watching this thing. She's sitting in between us, just watching us back and forth. And she's just so quiet because she doesn't know where this is going to go, because she thinks I'm getting ready to get thrown out of the house. And I expected him to get louder and start screaming. And he just got real super quiet and just said, I like you, kid. You got Moxie. And so that Moxie word has stuck with me. I associate it with Union Joe. He's long gone, but I can thank him for that word and this book, because honestly, that kind of speaks to the essence of Moxie. It's just kind of speaking up for yourself and having that big old flame that just doesn't go out and just gets brighter. So
Tell us a little bit about the book.
the book it's a journey of healing. It starts talking about the whole Moxie thing with me, and Moxie to me is that bright flame, that internal flame that we're born with. We're all born with this flame. And it is so bright and beautiful. I mean, babies are born, that flame and that light just emanates from them. And as they become toddlers, they still have it. They're out there dancing and they don't care who's watching them. They're building crazy shit with Legos. They're just making all kinds of stick figure drawings. And they don't care. They don't give a rat's ass as to what people think of them. They laugh, they play, they just enjoy life. And so as we grow older, people start to put their limiting beliefs on us. They start to put their baggage on us. Boys don't play with dolls. Girls don't play with trucks. There's no career as a musician. You have to find a job with good benefits. You have to be in this good company. You're crazy to work for yourself. So as we get older, we start accepting those limiting beliefs, and that bright flame of Moxie, it just starts to dim. And then you start getting hit with relationship issues and divorces and job loss and illnesses and addiction and everything else. And boy, that flame looks like it's just out for good. It just does. But it's not. It's an ember. It's still in there. And as long as we breathe, as long as our heart beats, that Moxie is still alive in there. So this book takes the reader through that journey of what Moxie is, how we lost it, and how we're going to get it back. And so it's kind of a step-by-step guide. It's really meant to be read from one cover to the other cover in that journey of healing. There's a lot of exercises in there, writing prompts for people. I encourage people to have a journal so that they can write down some of their ideas. So it talks about forgiveness, and that's really kind of hard sometimes to come to terms with. It deals with our anger issues, but it's written in a very conversational tone. I wanted it to be very, to be light, to have maybe some humor to it. I didn't want something that was incredibly cerebral, something that was going to be overwhelming to people. I wanted it to be more like I'm just sitting across the table from you, having a glass of wine, a cup of coffee, and we're just having a conversation. That's it.
Yeah. And the title of the book is Rediscovering Your
Reclaiming
Moxie.
your Moxie.
Reclaiming.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, reclaiming
Reclaiming
your
your
Moxie.
Moxie.
And yeah, I've started it on Audible because I tend to uh, procrastinate when it comes to reading, but I can listen very well. And I like the stories I've heard so far in the book, and you get into kind of this talk about intentionality and our frequencies. What could you go into depth a little more about that?
Okay, so that has to do with the law of attraction. Think,
Hmm.
The Secret, and with Rhonda Byrne. And so, what I believe, and many people believe, is that we are all operate on frequencies. First of all, we're all energy. All of us are energy, and I break that down. We look like whole beings, but actually, we're full of tissues, we're full of organs. And then you break those organs down, and they're cells. And then you break those cells down. So, eventually, we get broken down to little tiny bouncy balls of energy, and that's what we are, and we all emit a frequency. And so the law of attraction says that something you want is already created. The moment you think of it, it's already created. Now, the goal is to keep that frequency so that it matches the frequency of what you want. So if I'm saying, wow, if I want like a really great relationship, I'm sitting like right here. This is what I want. This is what I want. But in reality, I'm saying all I get are losers. I just get, bums. I get people that aren't good for me. I get people that cheat on me. And you can see there's the difference there. So if this is what we want, then we essentially have to be at that frequency and already know that it's created, know that it's already done. I have a good relationship. I already have it. It's already there. I'm just waiting for it to happen. That's all. So
Right.
I tell people, if you want that great relationship, you want to find that great person, start writing your list. Write your list of who you want and know that person is there, and just expect that person to come to you, and they do.
And some folks would say, well, law of attraction, I don't know, if I can believe it and dream it, I don't know if it's going to manifest. When your experience with the law of attraction, I mean, is there anything special you got to do? Is there a certain yoga pose you got to hold for 45 minutes, or is it just really just a matter of knowing what you want and knowing that you deserve it, and focusing on that?
Well, I think that is pretty much it. It's knowing what you want, knowing what you're worthy of, expecting it, knowing it's already there. I mean, the things that people have been able to manifest are just amazing. I mean, I've manifested a house at the beach, and that's what I wanted. I've manifested somebody, that comes into my life that really is somebody that I wanted in my life. So, you know, I think a lot of people get stuck and they're like, well, it hasn't happened yet. It hasn't happened. And they get
Right.
frustrated. And that's where the frequency starts going down. You have to already know it and know that whatever you're requesting in the universe, it's coming to you. And sometimes there's hurdles and sometimes there's tests. How bad do you want it? You know?
At what point in your life did do you make that connection? I mean, obviously before the book, there was probably that period of transition. I'm only assuming that because most of the folks that I talk to, there comes a point in time where we're at least for me, I always say I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired, and so I knew I had to make changes to get to where I wanted to go. What was that transition like in your life, and how long did it take you to get
Mm.
to where you're at, or where
58
where you would say
years. It
50?
took
Yeah,
58
okay.
years. Well, what I can tell you is that being in a relationship that was not good for me was really not good for me. It was not good for the kids, and I stepped out of that house, and the children and I went into a downward spiral where we were homeless. We didn't have a home of our own for about a year and a half, and I had been a stay-at-home mom, so I just got my real estate license, so there wasn't a lot of income coming in, and that was so hard. And I mean, we've gotten past it, we've gotten through it, but man, and I touch on it a lot in the book and about some of the things that we had to go through. And moving into another marriage, I thought, okay, this is it. This is going to be good. This is great. And it
Mhm.
wasn't. It wasn't. And I thought, here I go again. Here I go. And at one point, I just, and I always say, when the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Mm.
And I truly believe that I had just gotten to a point I didn't know what else I was going to do. All I knew is that this was just not going to work. And I had to start thinking of making some big changes in my life if I wanted to have happiness and have joy and have what I am worthy of having in this life. And I just, I don't know, it sounds really weird. It sounds hokey, but I believe we have guides that are with us, and
Mhm.
they're with us all the time. And sometimes we're not ready to listen to them, but I was just guided to write this book. And this book was a healing process for me. It was my blueprint for healing. So
Right.
everybody else is able to heal from it, but I was the first to heal from it. Essentially, I believe it was my guide working through me, writing this book, and I was healing as I was going along the process.
Right. Yeah, I like what you said there. When the student is ready, the teacher appears. And with the law of attraction, what it sounds like is just because you're initiating that in your life, and you've got your eyes on the prize, you may have to cross a few more bridges before it gets
Oh,
there.
yeah.
And that's just all part of the learning process, preparing you for that life. Because I can't imagine going from, I grew up in poverty. We were poor, and oftentimes, my mom had $5 to feed us. And if I would have went from that life and automatically came into money, I probably would have blown it all
Right.
because I wouldn't have known. I've never had it before. So that law of attraction, it requires
It
patience, I would
it
say.
does. It does. And be careful
And
what you
just
ask for, because don't just ask for more money, because you might find $1 on the ground and that could be it.
right,
You have
right.
to be really kind of specific about it too, and you have to watch what your words are, and your words really have to be positive and not of a negative sort. And
Mhm.
so, I mean, in my house, I don't have any medication. First of all, I don't really take any medication, thankfully, but I don't have any medication anywhere where I can see it, because every time I think you look at medication, you think of illness.
Yeah.
So, all my medication, my Tylenol, my ibuprofen is hidden out of plain sight. so that I'm not going to
Yeah.
see that. I am not going to be reminded of pain or an illness or anything else.
Yeah, I had a coach at one time that told me, we were just talking about different things that I wanted to achieve, and like most people, I said, well, I'd like to lose a few pounds. And he goes, you don't want to lose a few pounds. He goes, what happens when you lose your keys? You go and find them. So don't lose the weight, because your mind's going to tell you to go find it. Like,
Right.
you're going to eradicate the weight. You're going to eliminate the weight. And so he was going down that same path of be very specific about what you want, and don't let your mind drift off too far the other direction, or you're going to do the reverse,
That's
right? You're going
right.
to wake up thinking you're miserable. You're going to be miserable.
That's right.
You talk a lot in the book too about authenticity and being true to yourself and eliminating people out of your life that aren't serving your purpose, and that's not always going to be easy for some folks. What would you say to those listeners that might be out there that maybe they're in that bad marriage or in that bad relationship where the spouse doesn't really support
Yeah.
what they're going for? I mean, it's not easy to just leave. But what's been your experience with removing those toxic people out of your
Well,
life?
yeah. So like I said, I really, have don't have any communication with family all these years, and so I have a relationship with my ex-husband, who is the father of my four children. We do have a relationship, even though it was really a horrible divorce. And that was one of the things, was just kind of forgiving of that experience and forgiving
Mhm.
him. I hated him with a passion for what he did. And so, and people don't understand that forgiveness really has very little to do with the other person. Forgiveness is about just letting that energy go. Just let
Right.
it go, and releasing it, and releasing you from that moment in time.
Hmm.
So as far of people that aren't supportive, it's very difficult. And if you're in a relationship, to get out of it, especially if you're married to a narcissist, it's not going to be
Hmm.
it's not going to be a good time. That I can tell you. When it comes to other people, like people that don't understand your dreams, if you're an entrepreneur and you have a vision, you're going to come across a lot of people who aren't going to be supportive of that. Well, why don't you just go get a job? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? But the thing is, you're going to have to follow your path. You're going to have to believe in yourself sometimes when nobody else does. And that's going to make the difference. That's the harder, the bigger the risk we take, the greater the reward, I believe. And so, I might go through periods where, yeah, I'm dirt poor, and I might go through periods where I don't have a thing in my friggin' fridge. And guess what? That's just the price I pay for my dream and
Hmm.
my vision. And like I said, there's a lot of people that don't understand that. They don't have that entrepreneurial spirit. And, you know, you have to ask yourself, are the people in your life cutting you down every time you want to improve yourself? Or are they giving you a big old high five and saying, fuck yeah, you do that?
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what you're going to have to ask yourself. Are you getting were you crazy doing that? Or fuck yeah.
What would you say to those people that would, say they come to you, and you're like, yeah, you've got to remove yourself from this situation. They're like, but I can fix it. I'm a fixer, and I think that I can fix a
Yeah, I'm
lot
a
of
fixer
situations.
too.
Yeah. So what would you say if if somebody came to you and to get advice, and you told them, well, it sounds like you need to make some shifts in your relationships, and they're like, no, 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 I can work it out, I can fix it.
Well, then I'm pretty much going to tell you, all right, go back and fix it, and let me know how that works out for you. Because
Right.
a lot of times and I mean, we learn from when we're young to stay committed, stay committed to that job, stay committed to the process. And even in personal development, we say that, hey, stay committed to
Hmm.
personal development. But sometimes we stay committed to a job or a situation that's just not good for us. And
Hmm.
I think eventually, nobody can tell anybody to leave. Nobody can tell anybody, because if you're not ready to hear it, it's not going to matter how many times you say it. You just have
Right.
to hope the person's going to make that best decision for themselves. And I mean, eventually, you hope that they're just going to get tired of it and say, I deserve better than this. And when you finally think I deserve better than this, then you'll start opening yourself up to getting out and moving on to better things in your life.
And when you get out of when you and I won't just limit it to marriage. When you remove somebody from your life because they're not serving you in a good way, there's going to be grief. There's going to be like a time of mourning. For somebody that might be coming into this, right? They maybe they've been, the mother, they got married at 20
Mhm.
and they were staying home with the kids, and the kids are grown now, that and for you know reasons outside of their control, this marriage has fallen apart. They've never experienced the law of attraction. They've never thought about intentions or the frequencies. What would be your advice to them? They're saying, okay, I'm ready. I'm going to start out on this path. I'm ready to change, my mindset, change where I'm at. How does one start? Like,
I think you have to be open and receptive to healing, and you've got to do a
mm-hmm,
lot of self work. You're going to have to do that because what you don't heal, I mean, and we're all in a process of healing. It's never 100%. We're always going to find something else that comes up from our past that we have to deal with. But unless you take a look at some of those issues, you're going to repeat them. So I think a
mm-hmm,
lot of times either a good thing is to either get involved with a therapist, a counselor, a coach. Sometimes you need outside help, to get
mm-hmm,
moving on your healing process. And I talk about that in the book. We have so much shame in this country when it comes to seeking outside help. And when there's such a stigma with mental health here, but
mm-hmm.
I mean, we all struggle with it. And I'm not sure why there's such a
Right.
stigma. We all struggle with a lot of emotional baggage and mental health issues and depression. I mean, the pharmaceutical companies would not be making billions of dollars if we weren't
Yeah.
struggling with 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 depression.
Yeah.
But yeah,
If you,
that people have to start their healing process, and then I talk about just finding your peeps, finding the peeps from your
mm-hmm,
planet. Start looking to where people like you might be, because there's others
right.
out there that are just like you that are searching for you too. That are going through
Right.
a struggle and just need a good friend to rely on. There's plenty of Facebook groups that you can get into, that people are going through the same struggles, but just don't be alone. Talk about it
Right.
with others.
And that's a good point in the fact that it's not just about you. Like you said, others are going to come into your life, and they're going to come in your life, and they're going to need you to fill their bucket just as much as you need for them to fill your
Yeah.
bucket. So it's really not, I don't want people to get the perception, well, I just got to surround myself with great people. Yes, but these are going to be great people that are going to look to you for certain things and certain to help them on their journey. Do you, how about when it comes to law of attraction and manifestation, are you, when I first really got serious about it and wanting to shift and be in a different place, I read a book, and it talked about I am statements, like, I am confident, I am great.
Hmm.
And whether or not it's a placebo effect, or I mean, I felt a change.
Hmm.
One thing, when I kind of came, I call it my coming to Jesus moment in life, when I woke up and I said, okay, this, I can't stay on this path.
Right.
I've got to make a change. The One of the decisions I made is I'm going to go out and face my fears, and my biggest fear at the time was public speaking. So I said, I'm going to go tackle this, and I'm going to overcome this fear. And so I started this. I am confident. I am well liked.
Hmm.
I am charming. I am whatever. And I remember walking into work one day, and I had been doing this and practicing, and I was getting up at like 4:30 in the morning and kind of having this whole routine together. But I noticed my head was up, and I was saying hi to people, which wasn't normal for me. Like usually I'm head down, just get where I need to go.
Hmm.
I mean, do you incorporate anything like that into your day-to-day habits, or what's your feeling on, I guess we'll say, positive
Positive
affirmations?
affirmations, reinforcement. Yeah. I mean, yours and you've been to Tony Robbins.
Hmm.
So you know about the peak state, and
Yeah.
so that's when your vibrations are the highest. I mean, I spent 20 minutes before this podcast dancing around my bedroom, just kind
Yeah.
of just elevating my mood, because when you're feeling really good, good things are coming your way. They just do.
Right.
I mean, it's terrible when you're having a really bad day and people are like, oh, well, what else can happen? Well, don't ever ask that, because some shit's coming your way.
Yeah.
When you're in a peak state, when you feel really good, you're attracting really good things. You're attracting good people. You're attracting money, wealth, all kinds of good things. So yeah,
Right.
but I do before I go on a sales call, before I talk to somebody, I get in front of that mirror, and it was really hard for me for the longest time because I didn't have that confidence. But I certainly, I talk about it in the book. I talk groups, or even talking to clients. I'm making them do some mirror work, get in front of that mirror, because sometimes that's the only friendly face you're going to see, is that one
Yeah.
that's in the mirror, you know?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I do. I do all the time. I'm like, yeah, I'm a total badass.
A- and that's one area I know, like Tony Robbins talking about him, he calls them incantations. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's the pronunciation,
Yes.
where he's like, it's not just enough to sit here and tell yourself, I am, confident, I'm confident. You've got to say it with meaning. You've got to get up and
Meaning.
do
Yeah.
those super poses and different things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a little bit different language in it, but like you said, you were dancing, you were getting yourself primed, and you're
Yeah.
getting your body energized. So, I think that's good for anybody listening. Is it's not just enough to sit on the couch and be, you know, head down and saying these things. You've got to get up. You've got to act it and feel it.
Like you
You
mean
also,
it. Yeah.
yeah, you've got to mean it. You've got to believe it. You also talk a little bit in the book about meditation, and
Mm.
I know from my experience with not only myself but others, that could be a very
Yeah.
hard thing. And I think a lot of people have this perception that meditation is sitting still for 30 minutes, clearing
40
your
minutes.
mind.
Yeah. Cross-legged.
What's your take on meditation?
So I hold these classes down here at the beach. It's called Meditation for the Wine and Beer Crowd.
Yeah.
And because I want people to know that any everyday people, even the people drinking a glass of wine or having a beer, can do meditation. We get this vision in our head of, oh, people meditate, they're a bunch of tree huggers, they're eating bark off of trees, they're eating tofu all the time, that can't be me. But really, research has shown that if you can do meditation 10 minutes twice a day, you can improve your health. You can lower your blood pressure. Yeah, and what it does is it helps lower the cortisol levels in your body. And cortisol levels are the ones that are stress, they're stress related hormones. So so when we reduce the stress, when we reduce those stress reducing or stress hormones, we start a healing process in our body. So meditation is not as hard as people would think, and there's all kinds of different ways to do it. You can do guided meditation, which a lot of people do.
Mm-hmm.
You can be sitting still quietly doing meditation. You will have all kinds of little voices in your head. You'll have little ideas in your head, little thoughts in your head, and that's okay. I just tell people, just surround them with a little balloon or a bubble and just pop it, and then just get right back on course. Focus on your breathing. But if you
Right.
can start off 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, you can always build up, and
Mm-hmm.
just because you screw it up once doesn't mean it's done. Start over. It's no big
Right.
deal. Start it all over.
And you've kind of already answered this, but I was going to hit you with a true or false. And I was going to say true or false. When you meditate, you've got to clear your mind of all thought and go into some kind of Zen-like state.
Wouldn't that be great? And I'm sure
Yeah,
there are people. I'm sure there are people that can do that. It's not me. I can't do that.
yeah. Maybe the monks. I don't know. Somebody
Yeah,
out
I don't know.
there on the
I got too
mountainside.
much going in. Going in here,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. How about if somebody says, I'll pick on myself. At night, there's a certain time in the evening when I shut off the world and I go into my own little room and I turn on some music and I just let my mind be
Yeah,
free. I don't think about work. I don't think about the podcast. Nothing. I'm just listening to music. Um, for me, that's a type of meditation.
yeah,
It's just really that solitude.
yeah.
The meditation for wine and beer. So is everybody sitting around drinking wine and beer while they're doing it?
That's
Because
afterwards.
that's afterwards. Okay. I was
that's,
gonna say
that's
I, I was
afterwards.
gonna sign up for a class there, but yeah, even afterwards isn't too bad. I may have
That's
to do it.
afterwards, but it's a great class. People come that have never tried meditation, and they're like, "Wow, this really is not so it's not so bad."
Yeah.
It's a lot easier than I thought it would be. And if they go off, like I said, with just the hope of doing it for 5 or 10 minutes twice a day, they're already improving their health.
Yeah, and there's no in like guided meditation. That's how I started out, and there's apps. Some are free, some you pay for. There's
Oh
all
yeah.
kinds of things on YouTube. I mean, it doesn't cost anybody anything to get started with that. If I remember right in the book, you had talked about a ball of light.
Mhm.
Is it what it's a little foggy, but is that part of your meditation? What was the ball of light concept for you?
I talk about Moxie being a ball of light.
Okay.
Um, Also in meditation, I talk about just having a ball of light that comes down and surrounds you.
Yeah.
Envisioning something like that, envisioning healing light. I do that a lot of times when I'm doing energy healing on people. I
Hmm.
will envision a ball of light coming through them and clearing out, any old energy they no longer use.
Let's talk a little bit about that energy healing. That's piqued my curiosity. What is energy healing?
Oh, I love energy healing. So, I mean, it's known by several different names. You've got Reiki,
Mm,
healing touch. I'm a third level healing touch. There is also a therapeutic touch. And what it does is it manipulates the energy field around the body and some of the chakras, which are little energy centers throughout the body.
mm,
And it can be done hands on, hands off. It can actually be done distance, long distance. Energy travels. Think emails,
right.
energy travels. And I absolutely fell in love with it. And it's just so funny because I got into the process of energy healing just like one day. I was just kind of feeling like I'm off. Something's off. Something's. It's almost like it felt like it was out of focus.
Mm,
And I happened to go to it was a free energy healing clinic, and it was a 10-minute mini energy healing. And so the guy was just doing this energy healing on me, and I just kind of thought, wow, I could do this. And just as I thought that, the man said, you could do this. And I said, okay, well, that's universe telling me I can
right.
do this. And from there, I met up with somebody who was a was a representative from the Healing Touch organization, And so I started taking their courses, and I absolutely love it. I call myself, I'm a hybrid healer. So I take healing from, techniques from different modalities and incorporate that in whatever way I need to when I'm working with someone.
Okay.
And anybody can do energy healing. I mean, anybody can do it. You can do it. And really, the my goal is to teach somebody so they can do it on themselves, and then pass it on to someone else.
So with energy healing, is it because you mentioned the chakras? So is it kind of about realigning? I mean, what what should I expect if I was going to be the recipient of an energy healing? Am I going to feel anything? Am I going to?
Well, each experience is very individualized. So some people say that they will feel differences in temperature.
Mm,
If I'm directing energy over to a certain spot, a lot of people will talk about that spot becoming very warm. Some people will see different colors. Some people will have visions when they're having energy work done. Some energy healers will have visions. I don't. That's just not my thing. Um, but I can usually feel. I can feel it from my palms when the energy is moving, and it's almost like a vibration. I can feel a vibration in my palms. There's days that I don't really feel anything, but I would say the energy goes where the energy goes. And even if I don't feel it, it's still going.
this isn't a paranormal podcast by any means, but are you worried? Is like when you're doing energy healing, is it possible for you to absorb some bad mojo out of that, or I mean, it's not to that level, or
No, no, not at all. Not at all.
okay.
Because the energy, so we go through traumatic experiences, and those experiences, the energy of some of the energy of those experiences stay around us. They stay in that aura, that biofield.
Mhm.
So my job is to a lot of times just kind of push it on out and get it out of there. We don't need that experience anymore. We don't need the energy from that bad relationship or that job loss or that trauma. We don't need it. So a lot of times it's just moving the energy and getting it out of there. But no, no, I don't ever worry about bad energy coming my no possessions, nothing like that.
Nothing like that. No Ouija boards involved or
And I
anything.
mean, so here's the really cool thing about energy work to all the people that are like, oh, well, that's so woo woo. I took two of my courses at the DuPont Hospital for Children,
Okay.
okay, for Healing Touch. The DuPont Hospital for Children has a Healing Touch practitioner there full time,
Okay.
working on patients and caregivers. And so other hospitals are now starting to incorporate Reiki and complementary medicine into their hospitals and into their practice, because they're starting to understand that they need to take a more holistic approach. We need to treat the person as a whole. And
Mhm.
so there are some studies, because my background is in research. I am a former research scientist, so I
Yeah.
do need to see the studies and the data. And there are studies out there that show that energy work, that Reiki, can help eliminate some symptoms. It can help, people with their health. And so they use it a lot in people who are going through chemotherapy and radiation to help reduce the side effects. So it gets used now in hospitals, which is really kind of cool.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's lends a little bit of credibility to to that practice. When I guess if you have doctor after your name, then it builds it up a little more. But do you mind if I ask you about spirituality? And
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily asking um, do you go to church or anything like that, but from a I think law of attraction, meditation,
Mm-hmm.
um, the energy healing, it all sound, it's there's a spiritual aspect of it, and some people will say it's the universe, it's the energy in the universe. Some people may say it's God. Some people may believe in other things. for you, what does spirituality look like for you in this practice?
For me, it's universal energy. It's the energy that we all come from. I believe we are all part of the same energy. We're just broken into little parts of it. There's a Karen part, there's a Brian part, there's all these different parts of it. I talk about that in the book. I tell people, get some faith. I don't care what it's in, but
Yeah.
get some faith, because it's going to make your life a whole lot easier, because faith is like that magic carpet, that kind of helps us take away a lot of our fears, and we put our trust in it and it just goes. And that's the thing with metaphysics and the law of attraction. You have to have faith that it's happening.
Hmm.
It's not like one of these, well, I'll believe it when I see it.
Right.
It's just the opposite. Just
Yeah.
the opposite of that. It's like you have to already know it's there.
Yeah. I've got a sign back behind me somewhere. I don't think it's in camera shot, but it basically says that is it, faith makes all things possible
Yeah,
if you have faith in it.
it's true. It's true.
So if somebody was interested in reaching out to you, learning about services you provide, learning about more about the book, is there a website? Is there a way to Facebook page? Is there any how would people interact with you?
Well, I mean, I've got my personal Facebook page, and certainly anybody can certainly get on that if they like. It's Karen Carlucci Wahner. I have a website. It's KarenWahner.com. Also reclaimingyourmoxie.com. And that's got a little bit about me. It also has links to the book if they're interested in purchasing the book. Like I said, we just went to audiobook, and I was thrilled to death about that. That's really exciting. So yeah, and reach out to me, Karen at KarenWahner.com.
And I saw on your website too, you have forgive me, but you have like a video series or something that people can download. Is that on your website, or am I crossing my wires here?
I think you're crossing your
Crossing my
wires.
Yeah, it could
But
be.
maybe, hey, but maybe that's spirit telling you to tell me I
Yeah,
need to be doing this.
you need to create a series for folks to download. Yeah, it's
I
it,
think I'm going to start doing that.
and I tell you what, with the just to kind of add with the law of attraction too, because I think that's, for me at least, my experience is that's the hardest thing to convince people that it exists, that it's real. And I say I got my wires crossed because, this podcast, when I had really, I said to myself, I started this way back in May of 2020, but I didn't really get serious about it until after the first of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And then I put it out there. I was like, I'm going to grow this thing. I want to have people on sharing stories. And, but I didn't know how I was going to do that. And then I did the Tony Robbins virtual, and that's where I've met you through that Facebook
Mm-hmm.
group. And I've met so many others that it's like, and it's happened so fast. I've went from having one or two interviews lined up to, I've got about eight lined up. So when I say crossing my wires, it's easy because I'm trying to learn as much as I can about everyone that's going to be on the show. But that's really, I just put it out there. I put the intention out there that I'm going to grow this thing. This is what I'm going to make it into.
No, you're
And
doing great.
yeah, and it just happens. So
It's
law of attraction is
fantastic. And
definitely real.
it is real. And here's what I tell people: look, this is not a dress rehearsal here.
Right.
Okay. We are here to experience this planet, in whatever way we want to do so. We only have so much time here. So why
Yeah.
not spending it being happy? And there are people, the naysayers who say, well, they had this, or these people had that advantage, or there's people, you know what? There's a whole lot of people out there that had nothing to their name and are incredibly successful. And I point them out in the book also, for all those people that sit there and think, well, it couldn't be me. Well, exactly. If you keep saying it couldn't be you, you're right. Then it won't be you.
Yeah.
But if you're somebody that sits there and says, why not me? It should be me. then already you're ahead of the game. Yeah, this isn't a dress rehearsal. So be your best, do your best, enjoy this life because it could like that be over,
Right.
you know?
Yep. It's I can't remember the exact statistic, or somebody told me at one time, and that the human heart only has so many beats, like
Mm-hmm.
physically there's only so many beats, so you've got to use
Yeah.
those days and weeks and years at their fullest, because at some point in time, it doesn't matter how healthy you are, the body wears out. and
I
and
mean, are you, and when you're laying on that deathbed, how many
yeah,
regrets are you going to have? Honestly,
yeah.
you know?
Well, it's been a real pleasure having you on the show. The book is Reclaiming Your Moxie. I got it right
Mm-hmm.
this time. It's available on Audible. It's available on Amazon. Sounds like there's a link on your website.
Mm-hmm.
I've started the book, and so I would highly encourage anybody out there that's listening to this to check out that book, because it's got, especially if you like audiobooks, because you said you wrote it in a very conversational tone, and that's what I felt like. I felt like you were here because you author it, or you do
I
the Audible.
narrated, yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt like you were here talking to me, so it's I highly recommend it. And then, of course, we'll have links to your website and all that good stuff in the description field. But it's been a pleasure having you on, and I've learned a lot from you, and I've enjoyed our conversations. And somewhere down the road, I hope I could have you on the show again.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. This is wonderful. And I love what you're doing. This is fantastic. Getting it out there and just, you know what? We don't know who it's going to affect, but we put it out there and let
Yep.
today I'll tell you a real quick story. Today I woke up to a message through Facebook, and it was a woman, and she said she would, she really needs the book, and she and her husband are in a homeless shelter. And so I, said, I'll get you a copy of the book, and I mailed her a copy of it. And I thought, how much of a struggle this is going to be for this couple. But if the book does nothing other than give them hope that anything is possible, that they can
Right.
overcome anything, well, then it's done its job. And you sit there, like I said, I wrote this book, and I thought, well, I don't know who it's going to help. I don't know if it's going to help anybody. It certainly helped me.
Hmm.
And sure shit, I'll get an email from somebody saying, "Hey, I just want to let you know, I just read your book, and guess what? I left a horrible relationship, or I read your book, and I'm going to open up a business like I've always wanted to do."
Yeah.
And so that's what you're doing, Brian. It's like you're
Yep.
putting it out there, and you're helping people. You're helping the people that are looking to be helped.
Right.
You know?
And there's never a reason to recreate the wheel. It's already been created. We just make it our own, and add our own little personal touches to it, and we keep it rolling. So, um, in these last few minutes, is there any parting wisdom or anything you want to promote or anything you want to put out there before we let you get
No,
back to
I don't think so. At this point, like I said, I just, life's short. Life's short.
just
Enjoy it.
take
Enjoy it.
action, take action
Take
and believe?
action. Take action.
All right. Well, thank you again. I look forward to talking to you again in the future.
All right, Brian, have a good one.
So there you go, my conversation with Karen Carlucci Wahner. She had lots of good tips and thoughts on how to reclaim that moxie. If you're just not feeling that fire, if you're just not feeling like yourself, give her book a read. Listen to this podcast. Well, you've already listened to this podcast, so listen to it again. Check out her website. I'll have all the links and everything you need in the description below. And listen, if you've made it this far, almost an hour, I got to say thank you. I appreciate you for sticking around. If you want to reach out and contact me or interact with me, that's very simple to do. You could either email me at brian@conqueringeverest.com, or you can download the Podbean app and find the Conquering Everest podcast. Easy. Conquering Everest is all you got to search for. And then select the episode you wish to comment on. Leave me a comment. I will comment back. Of course, I will have a whole variety of links and other things in the description if you'd like to interact on Facebook or YouTube, Twitter, um, whatever the case may be. So, hope you enjoyed tonight's conversation. Don't don't forget to follow. Give this episode a thumbs up if you found it beneficial or entertaining. Hopefully both. And until next time, this is Brian saying, aim high, be courageous, and do amazing things.